Mac's full name is Mckenzie. Mac is the managing director of Bridge and the director of the Bridge Institute. For Bridge, his responsibilities include the P&L, business planning, and the execution of strategy for the Asia Pacific business. He specializes in senior leadership development, executive committee, and purpose-led strategy. He has particular interests in issues such as values-led organization, safety, and ethical growth. And now I hand it over to Mac to take ahead the session. Thanks, Mac.
Thank you so much, and it's a great honor to be with you all today. So I'm just going to walk through. So I'll just do a brief introduction in a moment to build on those kind words. But for today, the purpose is to look at three things. One is, how do you take people with you? What is the essence of inspiring people to follow you? Second is, what are the range of leadership styles that you have as a leader that you can use? And what are the contexts that the leadership style is most needed so that you can fundamentally increase your range of responses to the challenges that are thrown at you? And finally, we're going to look at what does it take to build amazing teams, and the essence that amazing teams are the core to building and making great impact in the world. So, as a brief introduction, we started 27 years ago. Two students at Cambridge noticed the huge, at university in the UK, noticed the huge divide between the disadvantaged and the advantaged in society, and we created a charity called Bridge, which was about the metaphor about connecting the two. And over the years, taken on a number of challenges, but kind of at the core, the skill that we've learned is leadership. And I personally am responsible for Asia Pacific, and we have small little teams in the countries that you can see, and very proud of the organizations that we work with and impact. Also, what's just really important to us is bringing remarkable people together to solve the world's seemingly impossible problems. And just this example just shows a 10-year program that we're working on reducing sexual assaults across Asia, and what we can do to bring government and business and civil society. So hopefully that's enough of an introduction. As I say, we do leadership, culture, and purpose, and today I'm going to be sharing some of our leadership tools and methods and ideas for you to help you be the best you can be. So moving on to, first of all, taking people with you. So I joined the call yesterday, and I noticed a lot of people were doing messaging over the phone. And so I'm going to just quickly experiment with this. Is what I'd like you to think about is the one person in your life that you have most wanted to follow and be emotionally loyal to. And just quickly write in a few words in the messaging, what did they do? What were their behaviors that made you want to follow them? So if I could just indulge you for 30 seconds and just to write in your in the messaging box. Does everyone have... Everyone's able to write in there, aren't they? Yeah, perfect. So if you could just think of the person you're most wanted to follow in life and be emotionally loyal to. What were their behaviors? What did they do? I'd just love to get about 6 or 7 samples so that we can just briefly talk about this. So I'm hearing have a vision. They're authentic and courageous. Fantastic. Thank you, Rukmini. They have authenticity. They're great at listening. They build trust. They're authenticity. Your father, thank you, Narayan. Generosity, kindness, calmness in dealing with people. If I could just get a couple more. Patient. And just hear a couple more. Okay, I'll stick with that. And genuine. Okay. And dedication to their work. So, thank you. All these people sound incredibly inspiring. What we've found is that the people, no matter what the cultural context or time in history or business, whether it's government or civil society, whatever the leadership issue, is that the people who are the most amazing at getting others to follow them, they follow a pathway, and we call the pathway see, hear, speak. And what it means is I see you means I see you for the human being that you are. So I'm committed to you, I'm generous to you, I'm kind to you. Then they here because someone talked about listening, and they are really curious about your world, and they give the message, you make sense. And only then do they earn the right to speak. And then that's the space of being genuine, being the space of authentic, saying the truth, and sharing your vision. So the first one came up with being visionary, etc. And what we found, and strongly believe, is just amazing at inspiring others to. They follow this pathway naturally. I see you for who you are, and that means initiating contact, turning up on time, creating rapport, connecting at a deep level, getting into the shoes, and stating purpose. Then the second thing that they do is they ask really good questions. They're really inquisitive. They show they're really listening. They shift their perspectives by what they're hearing, and then only then do they earn the right to speak. And just as a quick survey, just again, if I could do this on the messaging, who are least good at influencing others, where did they go first? See, hear, or speak? So if I could just hear 3 or 4 responses from you all. Think about the person you found least good at influencing and inspiring you. Where did they go first? See, hear, or speak? So thank you, Rukmini. Speak. Okay, let's see if we can continue this trend. Okay, speak but not authentically. Thank you. A couple more coming in. Speak. So this is the essence of this. It's every human being they speak mostly about themselves. Exactly. Not curious to other people. So every human being is born in the world with a heartfelt need to be seen, heard, and recognized. And we all have it. The moment we're born, we have this need. And it is a profound leadership act to allow other people to have their needs met first before you have your needs. And when things are going well, most of us find that quite easy. But when things are tough and there's emotion and there's difference of opinion, there's conflict, different worldviews, then this is when it becomes absolutely very, very powerful. I see you first. I hear you, you make sense to me, and then and only then do I earn the right to speak. And what I found in life is, in fact, often the way to get to inspire people to follow you is often just to do the see and hear, and sometimes you don't even need to speak, and people will just follow you. So I'll just quickly just get a little show, does that make sense? Does that resonate? Just a couple of responses from you all, and I can then move on. So, yes, very much. Fantastic. Yes, okay. So this is a model, and what I urge, this is a model you can teach to anyone, teach to your teams. We live in sales. We are selling to everyone. We're selling across ourselves. We're selling to our partners, our clients, our investors, philanthropists. We're selling to the government. And if you just learn to get into other people's worlds first before inviting them into yours, I get into other people's worlds first before inviting them into mine, you will be just much more powerful at getting people to follow you. So I'm now going to move on to the next slide. So when we do our leadership programs, we have little tools that sit under see and hear and speak. I wanted to just share this one, this little tool, which is a map that I have memorized. And whenever I meet people, or this is what we teach our leaders, whenever you meet people, what you're trying to do is, in the connecting and the building rapport, is find out the depth of the person. What are they passionate about? What are they fearful about? What are their hopes? What is tell me about your childhood. Who's the most defining person in your life? Tell me about your family. What experiences happened that really changed you and made you who you are today? What are your talents? And if you can get into a level of conversation that is at this level, you will create such deep levels of rapport. What most of us do is we keep our rapport building to surface level stuff, but don't go very, very deep. And so for me, I just think this is a really powerful map for working out what are the things that really show the depth of someone. I remember I was phoning a new client in the US and asking them, what are your passions in life? And she then just talked for 10 minutes, and the rapport that we had was amazing. So this, again, just as a map, but also can do is just print out this. I assume that we'll email these slides around afterwards. But print out this map with your teams and get them just to write words and share the depth of who they are, and you'll find that the connection in your team will be just that much more powerful. So just for a bit of interest, I'd love to just hear if you could, a few people just to write out, if you could write, what is something that you feel some connection and rapport with all of you. I'd love to hear if you could just write, what is a passion, the thing you're most passionate about in life? Having conversations, get some more just so that I can understand. Having conversations, deep and insightful learnings, value creation. If I could have just a couple more. Learning, helping others to help people in need. Connecting with nature. Let's just take one more and two more people. And just whilst they're typing, for me, my passions in life are helping to do my part to help for a more joyful and more fair participation in life. That I feel very connected. Reading yours, connecting with nature, connecting with people, solving real life problems that impact people at the bottom of the pyramid, living my purpose. So just such, you're obviously such a worthy group of people. And I'll keep, when the other last two come in, I'll speak to those. So this is all about, just to summarize, there are two ways to use this. Whenever you meet someone, start questioning the depth of who people are and understanding their fears, their hopes, their passions, their talents, their life-changing experiences, their family, the people that define them in their life. And you'll have such an amazing conversation and such a depth of I see you. Or print this out, work with your teams and get your team to fill this out, write a few words, and to spend 5 minutes each sharing the depths of who they are. And thank you for the final one coming in, understanding myself. So that's the first thing that I'm covering, was taking people. The essence of it is see, hear, speak. I get into your world first before inviting you into mine. And then how do I see people? Creating that connection, that rapport, understanding the depths of who someone are, who someone is, what are their fears, their hopes, their passions, their family, their talents. So I'm now going to move briefly onto the second thing, which is just one slide on the different visionaries, the different leadership styles that we have. And there are 6 broad, this is by the work of Daniel Goleman. Some of you may have read his book, Emotional Intelligence. And I won't talk through every row, but what he found is that we have 6 broad leadership styles that we can lead our organizations and our teams and our stakeholders with. And 4 of them are positive, and 2 of them are broadly negative, but they can have a time of when to use them. So the negative ones are commanding and pace setting. So the commanding is basically do what I tell you. And in a crisis, in a fire, in a dangerous situation, this is where the leadership style is mostly needed. But if you just have a commanding style over time of do what I tell you, people will broadly want to leave you. The other negative leadership style is pace setting, which Bill Gates was famous for at Microsoft, which is always do it better, do it faster, do it harder, and it works when you've got people around you who are hugely competent and hugely motivated. So the reason that Bill Gates gets away with it is he has surrounded himself over life, either at the Gates Foundation or at Microsoft, with very motivated and admittedly very well paid people and competent people. But you have to use that leadership style quite sparingly. The 4 positive ones are visionary, affiliative, democratic, and coaching. And so the visionary is about when the organization needs a new direction, a new vision, it needs to be inspired by what it's doing, then that's the style that is mostly needed. It's about painting a picture that is desirable, imaginable, possible, and you just want that to make happen. So that's all about mobilizing people. The second positive leadership is called democratic, which is all about I get decisions through consensus. I collaborate. I ask the question, what do you think? And again, it's a hugely inspiring leadership style because it builds consensus. It gets all the employees provide their wisdom to issues. So again, very, very positive. The third is affiliative, which is all about harmony, connection. And you have this view that people come first. So empathy, building relationships, etc. And this is a very important, especially if you've got any toxicity or rifts in the team, or people feel unseen or unappreciated. This is a really important leadership style, which we call affiliative. And finally, and the fourth really inspiring leadership style is coaching, which is all about helping people be the best they can be, developing others to be the best they can be. And the message of it is, when you coach people, is I really care about you, and that message comes across loud and clear. So just again, a little bit to make it interactive, when you think about your organizational context that you're in now, about the people you're trying to lead and change, what is the style of leadership that you most need to do right now? So I'd just love to see again, as many responses as possible. What is needed of you now? Meaning your organization needs you to be more coaching, or maybe you're already doing it already. I'm sure you're already doing it already. Coaching. Interesting. A trend so far. Democratic. Thanks, Sachin. Coaching. Let's take a couple more. Just whilst we're waiting, my organization, what they really need me to do right now is to be more visionary and perhaps less democratic. My natural style is affiliative and democratic, and I think what they really need is more visionary and more coaching. So Prashant, you're with me. More visionary, Vishal, more democratic, being a proper structuring. Okay, perfect. So I'm now going to move on to the third thing. So just to summarize, first thing that we touched on was taking people with you. The essence of the tool is see, hear, speak, the pathway. I see you for who you are. I connect with you. I hear you. You make sense. And speak, I also make sense too. I get into your world first before inviting you into mine. And we talked about great rapport. And then the second on leadership styles, there's 6 leadership styles, commanding and pace setting being the more negative ones, and coaching, affiliative, democratic, and visionary leadership being the more positive. So the third thing we're going to do is talk about how do you build amazing teams. And again, just with I'd love to hear some feedback from you. Could you just tell me, write down one amazing team in the world, and it could be a sports team, a musical team, a cultural team, a government, a business team. But could you just tell me, what do you think are the best teams in the world? Family. So, okay, your family. So I need specific examples. Like Barcelona Football Club, the Indian cricket team. The All Blacks. We just have some examples of some really great teams. Justin Trudeau's cabinet, lovely. We just have a couple of examples. Tata, the German soccer team. Indian defense, is that cricket defense or the defense? How about that? Head held high, absolutely. Tata Group. Okay. Trishan Dralu, the Indian defense, Indian Army. Okay, all right. Okay, Google. Okay. So we've got some good teams. Do you mind if is the Indian? Can I just have a yes or no? Is the Indian cricket team a good team? Yes. Okay, all right, excellent. I want to use the Indian cricket team if that's okay. So could you just quickly say, what are some of the reasons why the Indian cricket team is such a great team? And just would love to get your responses to this. Just a few responses. Why is the Indian cricket team so great? What is it about them? Diverse strengths? Proper coordination? Collaboration? Passionate? 11 out of 125 million. Perfect leader. I've heard about him. Future looking. They have a common goal. Okay, this is fantastic. So I'm just on this model here. This is called the high performing team framework, and what it's the key notion is that great teams have 9 key attributes about them, and we broadly know what those 9 attributes are. So I'll just quickly touch on a few of them. So things like valuing others, so looking like they band together when they need to deliver and practice joint responsibility. So you see valuing others, you see accountability. They're under a lot of pressure to perform. So measurement, they're clear on basically what performance is. Future looking is they've got a strong shared purpose. Competencies could be perfect leader. I'm just going to shift up a bit. Passionate could be around commitment. They go well together could be again around about valuing others, and proper coordination could be around common approach. And so what we find is that we all know what great teams are. They have measurement, they have a common approach, they have strong technical skills, they got the right competencies, they learn and they provide regular feedback to each other, they value each other, they're collaborative, they care, they're committed to their objectives, they're passionate about it, but also they've got a shared purpose that they're going for. And what we do with senior teams is we show them this tool, and then we say, don't worry about the blue and the purple. What we say is, look at the outer ring, and you just write it out on a flip chart. We have clear accountabilities. We regularly review our progress. We have good, well-facilitated meetings. So you write all of these attributes on a flip chart, and you say, how much is this statement true 5 out of 5? And so, so if you just think about your team, do you regularly review progress? Do you have good, well-facilitated meetings? Do you have the right skills? And if you don't get 5 out of 5, you then have the conversation to say, what would get us to 5 out of 5? Do we have a shared purpose? Do we have clear accountabilities? And then what we do with teams is that once they're scoring 5 out of 5 on all the yellow, then we then go, okay, let's go to the next level, which deepens, makes it harder statements. We share leadership. We are confident about meeting our challenge. We value our differences. We help each other to learn. And then what we do is then you keep on going until you get 5 out of 5 on that. And then you move into the I don't know what color that is. I'll just call it purple. And then you go, right, what will get us 5 out of 5 on that? So some of the greatest work I've done with teams is, over a year, they found themselves scoring 5 out of 5 on all of these different statements. So you start like an onion, you start on the outside and then go in and in as the statements get harder. So just quickly check and go, does that make sense as a process? You put the statements up on the outer side, and then with your team, you say, how true is the statement out of 5? And if it's not a 5, what would get us to a 5? So just quickly, hearing a couple of people. Powerful process. Thank you. These statements mentioned here are the ones used or team. Oh, yes. So that's a good question. It's these are so you use those. We would propose you use these statements. So you just, as I say, you just put the flip charts and you write these statements. So we put quite a lot of thought into what those statements are, and it just helps to have a really good conversation. So thank you. Thanks for all your feedback. So next step is I'm just going to just do a couple of perspectives on a deep dive on different aspects of these. So out of these 9, I'm not going to cover all 9 because we haven't got time. But just something about shared purpose. So what we argue about is, and so we do a lot of work with companies, and you've got to be able to define all 3 of these things for you to be the best that you can be. Human beings are, when they have their purpose, are just simply amazing. You know, we all know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and, you know, self-actualization. But also, right down at the bottom, you've got to make money, or if you're an NGO, you've got to make sure you're financially stable. And then also, you need to be the best you can possibly be. So this is just a really simple little pyramid to say, let's define our shared purpose and let's make sure that we're inspired by the difference we're making in the world. Let's make sure we're the best we can possibly be, and let's make sure that we're financially stable. And if you get any of those bits missing, you will either, if you don't have the making money or staying financially stable, you will cease to exist and therefore not be able to be of any purpose to anyone or any use. And if you don't have the top bit about defining how you're going to make a difference to the world and make a positive impact, then the music in every human being that exists will be unplayed, and you won't find the best in everyone. So we're big believers that when people discover the purpose and it's greater than them, then that is when you have an amazing organization. So again, just a process, what you might do is with your team is you just put this on a flip chart and let's define how we're going to make a difference to the world. Let's define how we're going to be the best. Let's define how we're going to stay financially sustainable. So you're saying music in every human being will be unplayed. Yeah, so there's a quote about saying that, I can't remember exactly, but it goes something like, we are all born with music inside us, but most of us go to our graves with the music unplayed. And I believe that to be true. And, you know, knowing probably the people you're all on this call, you're all people who are playing your music, undoubtedly. So I'm going to move on to next one. I think I've got 10 minutes left. So this is just a little notion about accountability, and it all starts with conversation. And I remember when I saw this little diagram, which I'll explain in a moment, it then just made total sense. Everything starts with conversation, and what we've found is that there are 3 types of conversation. The first is called serial monologue, second is called dialogue, and the third is discourse. So serial monologue is when the group are either just talking to the middle of the room with no particular audience, or they're talking to the most senior person in the room, which is demonstrated down at the bottom. And what we find is that sometimes serial monologue is appropriate, but if you have an organization or a team where you're constantly in serial monologue, like the most senior person's talking the most, or 1 or 2 voices are doing the most talking, over time you feel totally unaccountable to the team. So I remember I was doing this policy work, it was an education policy work with the British government, and we were launching this new policy, and 20 people, there were policymakers came into the room, and no one listened to each other. People would stand up when they got space, they'd speak, most people when they'd spoken, they'd then leave the room and then walk away, and I'd never see him again. And I just felt there was no accountability to this policy. In fact, I noticed that I was in a meeting with a chief minister, and he walked in, spoke, and then walked out again. And again, basically, the impact was there was no accountability within the group. The second big transition is what's called dialogue, where you see people starting to engage, they start agreeing with each other, disagreeing, flagging these sort of different things, decisions gets made, but again, basically, it doesn't feel like we're all in this together. Discourse, the origins of the word discourse means intelligent conversation, and it means everyone is in the conversation. No one's getting missed out, no one's being quiet, we're all part of this together. So if someone is quiet, other people in the group will say, hey, I've noticed you've not said anything. What's your perspective? What's going on for you? So that diagram, I think, whilst it's very simple, if you want accountability in your teams, you need to have discourse, which means everyone is contributing to the conversation. So just a simple concept, but hopefully that makes sense. The third thing is we talked about valuing others and building trust as a key part of this. And again, this is just a very, very simple tool. If you don't have trust in your team, or you have trust issues in a relationship, then basically this is just a very good tool just to sit down and go, where am I breaking trust in this relationship? And so this word braving, these 7 words come from Brené Brown. And she just says, trust is such a big concept. The origins of the word are Norse word. It means, will you be strong for me? But again, it's such a big word. To say to someone, I don't trust you, or I don't feel I can trust you, or I feel there's no trust between us. It's such a big thing. What can you do with that? Whereas what we think is that there are 7 big things that actually make trust. So the first one is boundaries, which is all about you set boundaries, and you are, as an individual, you say what's okay and what's not okay. And if the boundaries are overstepped, then you hold your boundaries. So this might be about, it opens up a whole load of questions about what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I think, especially when we look at what's going on with with Weinstein, etc., I think we've seen very sadly, millions of examples of where boundaries have been broken all over the world. So people who are fantastic at building trust, they set boundaries, they respect boundaries, and they are willing to say what's okay and not okay. The second thing is reliability, which is all about you do what you say, you turn up to meetings on time. If you say you're going to make a commitment, you see it through. And anytime you miss a deadline or you don't do what you say, then that breaks trust. Accountability is all about you're totally accountable. You can properly apologize if you've fallen short. You can own your mistakes, and you can make amends. So that under accountability is not only I fully own this, but if I fall short, I'm the first to say I went wrong. The fourth bit, which I think is just all over the world a massive issue, is the vault, which is all about you keep information that is not yours to share. So this means not gossiping, this means not speaking badly of others behind their back, and it's also about maintaining total confidence. So I think one of the things I've noticed in the world is often, when we get stressed, we often will speak badly of others, etc., or we may share stories that are not for us to share. So I think that's a big area for us in the world. Integrity is all about choosing courage over comfort, choosing what's right over what is fun, easy, or fast, and living your values, being true to yourself. Non-judgment is being able to speak without judgment, and allow others to speak without judgment. And then finally, generosity is your ability to extend generous interpretation to see the best in every single person. So I know it's a bit of a long list, but just wanted to hear just a few people, or maybe as many as possible. What is the one bit of where could you increase trust as an individual, as a leader? When you look at that checklist of 7 things, where's the one thing that you would like to work on even better to be the best person you possibly can be? Boundaries. I have to trust myself first. Yes. Non-judgment, boundaries. Integrity, non-judgment. Non-judgment and accountability. Thank you, Bina. Non-judgment. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a common thing that often, for those who are writing non-judgment, actually often what sits behind this is extraordinarily high standards. So those of you who've written non-judgment, you may be thinking, you may notice that you've got really, really high standards, and the shadow to having really high standards is often, if people fall short of your standards, then there can often be a place of judgment. So it comes from a very good place, but often can be played out with a shadow. And yes, Sanju, for generosity, seeing the full best in every single person, seeing the positive intention of others, their words, etc. So I'm conscious of time. I've only got 3 minutes left. The last thing that I wanted to do, so I'm doing just a few deep dives. I've done 3 so far on the high-performing team. So, so the last one is, how do you give really great feedback? And this is a very simple tool. We call it Plus EBI. Vaishnavi is giving. Okay. I don't want to. I don't know what. Break boundaries. I was told to stop at past, but anyway, I'll just go for just a couple more minutes. But thank you so much. So the final thing is people. How do you give really great feedback? And we have this very simple tool called Plus EBI, and it's just a language that we've implemented in many organizations. And the plus is what is working really well. Recognizing what people are doing and saying, amplify this, do this even more. And then the EBI stands for even better if. And it's future focused. It's clarifying what you're expecting someone to do better off. It doesn't have to be connected to the plus. And what we talk about me, us, and it is, it might be how the person could be as an individual even better, how their relationships could be even better, or how they could do the it as their job. And it forces goodwill. And what I've noticed in Asia is often when we give feedback, we miss the plus. We don't give the recognition about what someone's doing well and what to amplify, and we just focus on what's going wrong. And I think it stems from very high standards. It stems from the way that education is done in Asia, and again, the shadow to it is often we focus on what's wrong versus amplifying what's right. So we in Bridge, we call Plus EBI. It's just a tool, and then what we often ask is I might go to my team and say, can you give me Plus EBIs? And then say, can I give you Plus EBIs? And it gives a language for creating really positive feedback. And what's really interesting is that the feedback that is most inspiring for people is the EBI if it's constructed well, because again, the message of it is, I care about you, I want you to be the best you can be. So I'm just noticing some feedback. Can you give one? So I'm just reading some feedback. Plus EBI is such a lovely way of sharing and helping each other improve. Beautiful, this can only happen when reading is followed. Fantastic. And can you give one example of this? Can you give me? Can you say a little bit more? Are you saying, can I give example of what EBI is? How does this work? So let me just give let me just have a little. Let me just say. So is there anyone actually just in the group who thinks that they got Plus EBI? They would like to give me 1 plus and 1 EBI, but you have to do the EBI to do this. Anyone feel that they've got this? So the 1 short plus, and then how could I be even better? Just receiving some feedback. Not the negative. This was the next session. Next session. Okay, allocate more time. Okay, so that's my EBI. So for the next time I do this, have more time so that I can do the job properly. So I'm just going to quickly to summarize to say that's the high performance team framework, and what you do with your team is get 5 out of 5s out of all of these things. I've given you a few tools that sit under how do you create accountability, how do you build value, how do you value each other, build more trust, how do you do feedback and learning, yes, and then how do you get a shared purpose that you all love. And then, so in summary, taking people with you, that was the first thing we covered. See, hear, speak. I get into your world before inviting you into mine. The leadership styles, the 6 styles, what's the leadership style you're most needed, and then how do you build amazing teams, and a diagnostic tool that you can take to your teams. And so I'm just reading something. This was the next session. So organized way you shared info was so great. EBI, a few more examples explaining the concepts would help us understand better. Thank you so much for that feedback. So I'm just going to hand over and just say that's the end of my session, and I don't know if I've got time for Q&A, but if I could, I'd just say it's been a real honour to be with you today, and sorry for turning up 2 minutes late. That would be an EBI as well.